Hello and Assalamu alaikum. I am Kashif Kamran. Welcome back to the episode 3 of understanding the 20 professional marks in the AAA paper. Now, in the first episode, I took the holistic view of understanding the split of the 20 professional marks in the section A and section B, and a holistic overview of the 4 skills which has been introduced as professional skill marks in the AAA paper. In the episode 2, I focused on the communication skill and meeting the examiner mindset. Today, in the third episode, I am focusing on another very important skill, meeting the examiner expectation. How would you demonstrate the second most important skill, which is analysis and evaluation skill? Now, what is the examiner mindset about analysis and evaluation skill, and what your examiner expects from you in terms of demonstrating the analysis and evaluation skill in the AAA paper? All AAA questions will include this professional skill, whether it is a section A question or whether it is a section B question. So question number 1, the question number 2, and the question number 3. All 3 of them will have this skill to be demonstrated. So all AAA questions, so 1, 2, 3, will include this professional skill, as it is fundamental that candidates can demonstrate their assessment of a given scenario and the application of their knowledge. So in every question, the candidates should demonstrate their assessment of a given scenario, assessing the given scenario and the application of what they have learned. Number 2, an evaluation is a balanced appraisal. So you have to do a balanced appraisal to determine the impact of a course of action. For example, if a client does not amend a material misstatement in the financial statement, candidates need to be able to explain the implication for the audit report, analyze, evaluate what is the likely implication of a material misstatement on the opinion of the auditor, evaluate what is the likely implication of a business risk on the business objectives of the organization, evaluate what is the likely implication of an audit risk on a financial statement, evaluate what is the likely implication of an ethical dilemma on the process of the audit. So there are so many instances in the AAA paper when the requirement of a question itself starts with evaluate the ethical and professional implications, or evaluate the impact on the audit report, or evaluate the business risk, evaluate the audit risk, evaluate the component auditor strategy. There are so many requirements in AAA paper which itself starts with evaluate. We're not talking about the introduction of professional skills. Even if you look at the old papers, June 22, March 22, and December 21, there were questions asking you to evaluate. And evaluate is a very common verb which is used in the AAA paper, because you are a manager in the context of the AAA and you are evaluating so many things in the AAA paper. But what exactly you need to do to fetch these professional skill marks for analysis and evaluation? Now, first of all, you need to understand that to demonstrate analysis and to demonstrate evaluation in the context of the AAA paper, what exactly you need to do. In terms of exercising or in terms of demonstrating analysis and evaluation, candidates must, number 1, calculate relevant trends, relevant ratios, relevant calculations, because calculating trends, calculating calculations, calculating ratios where possible, where it is to be calculated, and that is extremely important for your demonstration of an analysis skill. Because when you are calculating a trend, you are analyzing something. When you are calculating a ratio, you are analyzing. Or when you're doing a calculation, for example, you are calculating the amortization expense, or you are calculating the depreciation expense, if it is possible, or you're calculating the interest cost, if that is possible. You are doing the calculation. That means you are analyzing the given situation. Or if you are identifying a trend, if you are identifying an increase or decrease where it is logical, where it is possible, and you are justifying what these trends or calculations are proving. If you identified a trend, then you justify what this trend is justifying, what this trend is proving. Is this trend proving a material uncertainty relating to a going concern? Because you do get a going concern question in the AAA paper, whereby you have to use the trends and the ratios and the calculations to identify a matter which may cast doubt on a going concern of the company. Or you might find a relevant trend to justify the given audit risk. You might find a relevant ratio, for example, like a receivable collection days, and you calculated the receivable collection date and you justified because there is a significant increase in the receivable collection days. There is a possibility that the customers are struggling to pay on time and the related bad debt expense are not adequately recorded. So you need to link the trend or the ratio or the calculation with a justification. What is it proving? But if in isolation you do a calculation, if in isolation you calculate a ratio, if in isolation you calculate a calculation, but you didn't justify what is the context of it, what is the purpose of it, what is it proving, you're not analyzing, you're not even evaluating. So if you want to properly analyze or if you want to properly evaluate, you need to prove, you need to justify what is the purpose of this trend or this calculation or this ratio. So you might use it in the context of a going concern question. You might use it in the context of the audit risk question. You might use it in so many contexts in the AAA paper, even in the reporting questions. You need to calculate the material misstatement sometime. There is available data. From that available data, you calculate that this is the material misstatement. This is the adjustment which is to be incorporated in the financial statement. So at times you need to do the calculations even in a reporting question. So wherever possible in the AAA paper, you need to calculate the relevant trends, ratios, calculations. But the more important thing is you need to justify what these trends or calculations are proving or how these calculations support their arguments, means your argument as a student. So that's extremely important. But if any student is just doing an isolated trend or an isolated ratio, which is not justified, which is not supported to their arguments, useless. No analysis, no evaluation. Number two, assess materiality and conclude whether the matter is material or not. Now, this is something we regularly do in the AAA paper, right? So we assess the materiality. Now, assessing the materiality is part of your analysis and evaluation skill. Now, there are so many contexts in the AAA paper, again, like an audit risk question, or again, like a risk of material misstatement question, again, like a reporting question, where you need to assess the materiality. Not just assessing the materiality, but also concluding, assessing and concluding. If you just determine the materiality, but you're not concluding on the materiality, you're not doing evaluation, you're not doing assessing, because conclusion also is a very critical part of analysis and evaluation. When we analyze something, we conclude it. When we evaluate something, we conclude it. So a conclusion or a justification or proving is very important. If you find a trend, you conclude what the trend is showing. If you find a materiality, you conclude whether it is material or immaterial. So that is extremely important. Number three, consider the ethical implication of a given scenario. What is the implication? The implications are also part of evaluation and analysis. You need to evaluate the implication. How many times in the AAA paper, the examiner says, evaluate the ethical and professional issues? So when you are evaluating an ethical issue, you are not just saying this is an intimidation threat. Because just by saying this is an intimidation threat or just by saying this is a familiarity threat is not fetching you the marks. Till the time you justify that why it is a familiarity threat or why it is an intimidation threat in the context of the case study. So you need to justify that this is the reason why it is an intimidation threat, or this is the reason why it is a familiarity threat. So just referring to a threat is not analysis, or just referring to a threat is not the purpose of analysis, right? Till the time you justify why. So that why is analysis, right? That why is evaluation. And so many times, even in my previous webinars, I've been very critical that the student should look for implications. The student should look for a why answer when they're writing an ethical and a professional issue. So consider the ethical implication. Justify why it is a self-review, why it is a self-interest, why it is a familiarity. Consider the ethical implication. And not just considering the implication, but also recommending the action. What should be the logical action? What should be the logical safeguard which should be taken? Because that is part of evaluation, even evaluating or assessing the right safeguard. So when you write an ethical dilemma, your ethical dilemma is incomplete without an action. So whenever you are writing an ethical dilemma, you need to complete the ethical dilemma with a possible course of action the audit firm will be taking in a given context of the case study. So that is important when you're analyzing and evaluating. Number 4th, application specific to a given scenario. Now, even this is something I was discussing in my episode 2 as well. And this is a common way of fetching most of your professional skill marks in the AAA paper. And this is something I have been very vocal of in my many previous webinars. Case specific answer. If you are writing out of case, you're writing an hypothetical answer, you're writing a generic answer, you are writing out of a case study answer, you are writing an answer in an illusion, useless. You need to write an answer which is case specific. The information has been extracted out of the case study. Your answer is well connected with the case study. Your answer is well linked to the case study. And that's where you're fetching your analysis, because you need to analyze within the given scenario. You need to analyze within the given case study. If you are analyzing within the given case study, you are doing a justification of analysis and evaluation. But if you are not analyzing within the context of the case, you are going hypothetical, or you're writing a generic answer, or you're writing an out of case answer, it is not analysis. It is not evaluation. So this is a very golden rule of thumb in AAA paper, that write a case specific answer. It will help you fetch most of your professional marks. Next, audit procedures should be relevant and practical in the context of the case. See, when you are even writing the audit procedure, or when you are even evaluating the audit procedure, your audit procedure should be relevant. When it will be relevant? When it is in the context of the case. In my previous webinars, again, I have been very vocal. Again, I have a mnemonic which says CASP, that a procedure has to be case specific. A procedure has to start with an action. A procedure needs to have a source document and a purpose. I hope the students who are connected with me know that CASP, case specific, action, source, and purpose. So if you are writing a procedure which is case specific, it has an action, it has a source document, it has a purpose, it is a more relevant procedure. But case specific is very vital. It is to be in the context of the case. So try to write audit procedures which are senseful rather than senseless. Don't write something which is impractical for the auditor to do. The last thing, provide conclusion where necessary. Where necessary. Evaluate, analyze. Normally, when we do analysis and evaluate in any paper or in any context, we do provide conclusions, because analysis means you're looking at situation and then you're giving your conclusion on it. Evaluate the business risk. Evaluate means to give a conclusion. Evaluate the audit risk. Evaluate means to give a conclusion. Evaluate the ethical and professional issues. At the end of the evaluation, you have to give a conclusion, a sum up. So a conclusion of like 2 sentences, 1 sentence, concluding on the main problem, the main issue, or the main findings is extremely important. So this is what you can do. This is what you can put in your answer to improve upon the quality standards of your answer. And one thing where I would just put my episode 3 to an end, because it is the episode 3, and by this point in time, you must be mature enough to understand the professional skill marks in the AAA paper. Honestly, if anyone had been connected with me, either through the webinars or through my online classes, when I used to write an answer, even prior to September 22, or when I used to teach how to write an answer, even prior to September 22, these were the fundamental things. You are not changing the way you are writing the answer, but rather when you're writing the same answer now for September 22, your answer will fetch you the professional marks. Now, if you give a conclusion, now if you write a case-specific answer, now if you justify a calculation, now if you conclude on a materiality, now if you justify why it is an ethical threat, this all will help you, fetch marks. Before, it was more and less part of the technical marks, but now they have been put separately as professional marks. So you're gaining professional marks. So when you are writing a beautiful answer, a quality answer, which has calculations, supports, and justifications and conclusions and justification, why it is a threat, proper actions, proper procedures, what is the summary? The summary is you need to improve upon the quality of your answer. And these are things which you must be doing. You must ask yourself, were you not calculating materiality before in the AAA paper? Were you not calculating trends and ratios before in the paper? Were you not justifying why it is an ethical threat before in the AAA paper? Were you not writing a case-specific answer? So now this has become more important. Now this has become more important because you need to fetch most of the 20 professional marks. So this is how you have to go with analysis and evaluation in the AAA paper. And whenever you are reading a requirement in the AAA paper, which specifically starts with evaluate or which specifically starts with assess, become more critical of that. Become more critical of that, because analysis and evaluation skills will be available in all the 3 questions, 1, 2, 3, and you need to fetch most of the marks here. So this is the episode 3, where I was focusing on the use and the demonstration of the analysis and evaluation skills. I hope you understand it. I hope you apply it. I hope you demonstrate it. And I'll see you back with the 4th episode, which will be on skepticism and judgment. Till then, take good care of yourself. It's your tutor, Kashif Kamran, signing off from the 3rd episode of Understanding Professional Skill Marks in the AAA paper. And I wish you the very best of luck for your upcoming exams. Goodbye and Allah Hafiz.